forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I am a kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
Orale pues, it's your host, Gabe Morales, back at you with another fire series. This time on past Nuestra Familia, Northern Structure / Nuestra Raza, and Insoles, also known as Norteños Soldados. If you don't know the differences between those, you probably need to view my recent episodes on the Nuestra Familia and the 14 Bonds. As some of you know, I got a little frustrated at the beginning of my last series with some people making very disrespectful, snide comments about the content. So let me get something out of the way right now, and this will be the only time I say it in this series. I have no problem with people asking respectful questions or respectfully disagreeing with me on some individuals. That's okay. What is not okay is for you to just be a troll and only post negative comments without giving any kudos of any sort for all the hard work and research I put into these videos. If you really feel the need to post a comment that just slams me and this channel, don't waste your time because it will be deleted ASAP and you will be blocked from further viewing this channel. I said it before, but I'll say it again. I get my information from past direct observations and conversations I had with prison gang members in the late 1970s to early 80s, as well as working on the yards and in the units at New Folsom as a corrections officer from 1987 to 1993. Before I forget, I'd like to give a big thanks to some of the individuals who helped me in my understanding of the Nuestra Familia and Northern Structure, in no particular order. Thanks to former Sergeant Bill Hankins, whose memoirs and work on the Prison Gang Task Force was instrumental in documenting prison politics between CDC, La M, and the NF. To Robert Moca-Morell, who interviewed several of the heavy NF in the early days, like Shoe War Padre Juan Lips Valdez, and provided me much of the information that I learned on the NF that was gathered from 1965 to 1980. To retired Associate Director Brian Perry, who oversaw all security threat group investigative operations, including those dealing with the NF. To Devin Hawks, one of the best gang investigators CDC has ever produced. To Robert Marquez, another great retired lieutenant and special services agent that dealt with the NF. To Rick Cowboy Handel, retired Santa Clara County Jail corrections officer who dealt with and escorted NF on a daily basis and was our first vice president of the International Latino Gang Investigators Association. He was also Sergeant of Arms for the now defunct Northern California Gang Investigators Association for many years. To retired CDC Sergeant Donna de la Garza, who was well-versed on NF activities in the 1980s and who interviewed former NF General Babo Sosa when he was housed at New Folsom in the early 1990s while I was still working there. To retired Lieutenant Orlando Ibarra, who worked at Corcoran Prison and dealt with many NF, including Mano Sosa. To Eric Patel, who worked death row where some NF were housed before the San Quentin Norwegian model was implemented. To David Villalone of ILGIA, who has put on some excellent NF Norteño workshops. To Morgan Chappelle, president of the Central Coast Gang Investigators Association, for being a good friend and keeping it real. To CDC investigator Mo Chavez, who interviewed many NF heavyweights and was well respected among his peers. To retired Santa Rosa detective George Collard, who was instrumental in bringing awareness to law enforcement before and after Operation Black Widow, to investigative reporter Julie Reynolds, who wrote Blood in the Fields, a good book about the NF and one that I endorsed on the back cover, to David Contreras and all the great guys at The Gray Line, the story behind the Blue Line channel on YouTube, to Boxer of Paradigm Media, who wrote a good autobio of his time as a captain in the NF, to Flacco of A Convict's Perspective, NS/NR expert, and is one of the most knowledgeable individuals on the history of those organizations that I know of. You could check out his channel on YouTube also. And if I missed anybody, please accept my humble apologies. But you know if you helped me over the years or if you hindered my examinations on this particular subject. My conclusions on the following individuals come from all this experience, as well as reading C-files and viewing validation lists from the California Department of Corrections and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Do they ever make mistakes on people they validate as prison gang members? Of course they do, but I feel is usually pretty reliable, and that information is often used in court and in prosecutions, including major RICO cases. So, if I mention your name or somebody you know who you feel was inaccurate or unjustified, before you get all mad, get at me first at gangpreventionservices@gmail.com, and I will reconsider it, provided you give me a good reason, not just no, he wasn't, or no, I'm not. So there you go. Don't like what see or hear? You can appeal it with me privately, or if not, feel free to go elsewhere. A rato vato. Oh, one other thing. Please be advised, this time I will not make slides for every individual that I have hard documentation on. No, I'll only make slides of those that I have at least one picture of. I have a lot of names to go through. As you recall, some gang experts believe the NF had up to 700 members and associates by the late 1970s, and there have been a lot of them that have joined or dropped out since then. That should make it easier for me and shorten the length of these videos as I go through all these names. Once again, I usually do not comment on current politics or active gang status unless it is already out there in the press or is well known out on the calles and in the pintas. Now that I got that off my chest right up front, let's get into it. I have the information that Frank Aviles from the Chino Centers, CDC numbers C5557 as well as D78125, was an NF associate in the 1980s through early 90s. As you may recall, I had a cousin from Chino who introduced me to many NF and NF associates when he once brought me to a garage party where many of them were there. No, I didn't fear for my safety. I guess I had just gotten out of Marine Corps boot camp, as you can see here, and thought I was a badass. Maybe I thought I could whoop them all if they got froggy with me. But I had no problems, as my primo was there, and everybody had a good time. I think I mentioned to you guys that I was born and spent all my summers in Yakima, Washington, which is known as the headquarters for the Norteños. There was a Joel Abundes Barba, also known as Blackbird, who was from Salas, but also did some time in Washington State and lived in Yakima. He had a K number of 56692, as well as a Washington DOC number of 734172, and also did some BOP time under number 07110-359. There was Marco Equehuero Abundes from San Jo. I believe he was part of the Lencho Guzman car. He had several CDC numbers, the first one being E as in Edward, 63007. He was housed at Santa Clara County Jail in March 1998, whereby his name appeared on a roll call. He hit the streets and was locked up again at the Santa Clara County Jail several times. And I did time at San Quentin as well as Corcoran Chute, whereby he was considered to be NF. There was a John Crackers Acevedo from San Jo. He started off with a K number of 21567, and I was NF by the late 1990s. I was involved in a 187 in 1991, as well as attempted 187s, 7 in 97, and another 187 in 2001. So this guy was busy. He was made NF by at least the late 90s. There was an Edward Frosty Acosta from Santa Paula. He had a B number of 61152, and was NF in the mid-1970s, but was listed as a hermit by 1976. There was a Peter Acosta out of Woodlake, which is in the Visalia area. He had a D number of 11949. He was NF in the early 90s. There's a Thomas Chicken Legs Acosta, who had a B number of 566898. I show he was NF in the mid-1970s, but was not validated until 1979 after CDC perfected its validation system. There was a Larry Lencho, a.k.a. Cuca Acosta Martinez from Gilas. He had a B number of 58015, and I show was an NF lieutenant by the mid-70s and was still active for many years after that. There was a Sabino Angel Acuna from either Merced or Stockton. He had an E number as in Edward, 78342, and I show was Northern Structure in the early 1990s and was housed at Pelican Bay in 2000, but I'm not sure what happened to him after that. There was Robert Kabubi Adame from San Juan. He was involved in the killing of Guadalupe, a.k.a. Lupe Venegas, from Fresno on January 6, 1976. Lupe's brothers were NF shot callers Joe Cucaracha Venegas and Sammy Venegas, which was one of the reasons why the Fresno Bulldogs stopped associating with the NF. The Bubi was validated in 1979. Like when I said, a lot of these guys were being validated, 78, 79-ish, 1980. There was Salvador Apache Adame Valentine. I don't believe he was related to Kabubi, as he was from Sacramento. I show he did some YA time in 1984, but paroled. Got popped for a burglary in 1986 and came into the system with D number 38107. I show that he was Northern Structure in the late 1980s and validated in 1993. I show that he got an assault by prisoner charge at Vacaville in 1987, and I believe got an additional 7 years for that. He got an assault with deadly weapon charge in 1995, and I lost track of him after that. There was Edgar Pretty Boy Floyd Adams, who I believe was out of San Juan, but also had ties to Texas, Arizona, and even dealt drugs over in Florida. He had a D number of 814 and was NF by at least the late 1990s. There was Paul Night Owl Adams. I'm not sure if he was related to Pretty Boy Floyd, but Night Owl was also from San Juan, and I show was popped for 187s in 1989 and 1995. He was considered then to be Northern Structure, if not NF. He was housed at San Quentin in 1996, and I believe did time at New Folsom Shoe in 2012. There's a Freddie Aguero out of Fresno. He had a P number of 21201. He may have had a CDC number before that, but I'm not sure. I show, though, that he was pegged as being NF in the early 1990s. During the time when the Bulldogs and Fresneros had a big split. There was Marty Aguero. I'm not sure where Marty was from, but he had a B number of 1398, and he was considered to be an NF associate at the very least, and was involved in the 187 of Cricket Gallegos at San Quentin on September 15, 1968, which is considered one of the incidents in the shoe war. There was Ralph Bosco Aguilar. He may have been from Chino Sinners, I'm not sure. I show possibly also had ties to Salas, but he had a D number of 40656, and I show was Northern Structure as documented by Nevada DLC. There was Raymond Indio, a.k.a. Lucky Aguilar. I show he's from Hanford, but also had ties to Visalia, and was involved in a 187 Tulare County. He had an E number of 31003 and was considered to be Northern Structure, if not NF, which he was validated in 2001. There was a Richard Canicas Aguilar. I think he might have been out of Fresno, but I have notes that he was an NF associate in the late 70s as he was communicating with Sleepy Villagrana, as covered in my California Youth Authority video. There was Ernesto Eric Aguilar Chavez from San Juan, but also show had ties to Modesto, 752. He was popped for a firearms charge in 1985, whereby he acquired D number 33752. He paroled in 1987 and had numerous parole violations from the late 80s to early 90s. I show that he got popped on a robbery beef in 2000 in Modesto, and I believe was given T number 99254. There was Anthony Grumpy Aguilera out of Gilas. He had an F number as in Frank, 67500. I believe he was made Northern Structure by 2008 and was housed at Pelican Bay in 2012. I'm only putting this out there because it was in a CDC press release, but he was hit on November 28, 2022 at High Desert State Prison by Raul Armando, a.k.a. Mando Quinn, as well as Frank Nanes. In that incident, both Nanes and Quinn were killed. And so, I'm going to have to end it right there. I hope you found this episode to be interesting and that you learned something new. This is Gabe Morales signing off. gangsters, cops, and politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision.